Hi, welcome to Polyphonic Press. I'm Jeremy Boyd, and today I'm going to be looking at the second album from Oasis, entitled What's the Story, Morning Glory. Here we go. So this is Oasis' second album, and the first time they had really been recognized in North America. With their debut album, Definitely Maybe, they had a few hits in the UK with songs like Supersonic, Live Forever, and Rock and Roll Star, but they were mostly unknown to the North American mainstream audience. When the band released their second album, it signaled a new era in the rock world. Loud grunge guitars were replaced with a more melodic approach, and along with bands like Blur, the Verve, and Supergrass, Oasis ushered in the era of Britpop in the late 90s. Songs like Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova became radio staples, and arguably for a brief moment, Oasis were the biggest band in the world. The production on this album is relatively organic, and I think that's really one of the things that they got right in the 90s, is natural sounding recordings. In the 70s, everything was really dry and they didn't really use the room sound to its fullest potential, and in the 80s, everything was washed in huge amounts of reverb. But by 1992 and 93, they found a happy medium and discovered that they could really create some natural sounding recordings without having to completely jeopardize the recording. And that's really where this album lives. It really lives in that sweet spot. I also really like that you have little interludes in the album, sort of little snippets of songs and sort of little things that sort of help to break up the album a little bit. It's a little more polished than their debut album. It sounds like they had a lot more of a budget to work with. I think the song that really defines this album has got to be Wonderwall. It's probably their most popular song and probably the one that people associate with this band. It's really the first song that broke them into the stratosphere, into the mainstream. It's a pretty simple song with just chords being played on an acoustic guitar, but I think that's really the main appeal of this song, that it's not overly complicated, and that's really what appeals to a lot of people. Oftentimes the songs that reach the biggest audience are the ones that really aren't too complicated and are coming from a genuine place, and you can really understand where the songwriter is coming from. The thing I think adds a lot to this song is the cello that gets played underneath everything. It really has a beautiful undertone that really kind of creates a texture that you don't really notice it too much, and it really just creates and helps this wall of sound kind of come. It's a pop song, but it isn't manufactured, and it has real instruments on it, which I really like. I think my favorite song on this album is the song Some Might Say, which was actually the first single from the album. It's just a really great rock and roll song that has really interesting chord changes and a very distinctive riff. Much like Wonderwall, it's a song that appeals to the masses, but isn't trying desperately to have mass appeal. Although it wasn't the most successful single on this album, it's always a highlight for me whenever I listen to this album, and it's probably my favorite Oasis song overall. Oasis are a band that have been criticized for sounding too much like the Beatles, but if you really dig a lot deeper into their catalog, you realize that they've been influenced by quite a number of people, including bands like T-Rex and Led Zeppelin, as well as the Beatles, among others. Oasis don't really sound like any other band. They sort of blend everything to sound like Oasis. This is a great album, and if you don't have it in your collection, I highly recommend picking it up. So anyway, let me know what you guys think of this album in the comments. If you'd like to suggest a classic album for me to look at, please leave that in the comments as well. Be sure to subscribe so you know when I post new videos, and you can check us out on Twitter and Facebook. That's about it. Take it easy.